You know that moment when exhaustion hits you so hard that your body just gives up? Well, that's exactly what happened to me in the most important interview of my life. But let me tell you, what the CEO did next shocked everyone in that room. And it's about to change everything you think you know about corporate America. My name is Emily Stor, and 3 months ago, I was just another broke girl from Fresno trying to make it in San Francisco. I'd been surviving on 3 hours of sleep, working double shifts at a diner, while taking care of my little brother Jake. My resume was literally held together with hope and scotch tape, but somehow I'd managed to land an interview at Monroe Dynamics, one of the biggest tech companies in Silicon Valley. The morning of the interview, I'd worked until 4 a.m. at the diner, then spent 2 hours on 3 different buses to get to their gleaming headquarters in Soma. My reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls showed exactly what I was. A girl wearing her only professional outfit, a thrift store blazer that didn't quite fit, and shoes that pinched my feet with every step. The waiting room was filled with candidates who looked like they'd stepped out of Harvard Business Review, designer suits, confident handshakes, conversations about their Stanford MBAs and internships at Google. I clutched my folder containing my handwritten portfolio and tried to remember why I thought I belonged here. Emily Stor? A crisp voice called my name. I followed a woman in a perfectly tailored suit down a hallway lined with floor-to-ceiling windows. The San Francisco Bay stretched endlessly beyond the glass, and for a moment, I forgot how tired I was. This was it. My shot. The conference room was intimidating. A massive table surrounded by executives in expensive suits. But at the head of the table sat someone who made my breath catch. Alexandra Monroe herself. I'd seen her on magazine covers, but in person, she was even more striking. Sharp cheekbones, steel gray eyes, and an aura of power that filled the entire room. "Ms. Stor," she said, her voice cool and professional. "Please, have a seat." I sat down, trying not to let my hands shake as I opened my folder. The other executives watched me with barely concealed skepticism. I could practically hear their thoughts. What is this girl doing here? "Tell us about your background," Alex said, leaning back in her chair. I started talking about my self-taught programming skills, the small websites I'd built for local businesses in Fresno, my ideas for improving user interface design. For a few minutes, I felt confident. This was what I knew, what I was passionate about. "I've been working on this project," I continued, pulling out my laptop, a 7-year-old machine that wheezed when it started up. "It's a platform that could help small businesses." That's when it happened. Mid-sentence, my vision started to blur. The exhaustion I'd been fighting for weeks suddenly crashed over me like a wave. My eyelids felt impossibly heavy. "The algorithm uses machine learning to..." My voice trailed off. I tried to fight it, tried to force my eyes open. But my body had finally reached its limit, right there, in front of the CEO of Monroe Dynamics and her entire executive team. I fell asleep. The silence in the room was deafening. I was dimly aware of whispered conversations, the scraping of chairs, someone clearing their throat in obvious discomfort. This was it. I'd blown my one chance in the most humiliating way possible. But then something unexpected happened. "Everyone out," I heard Alex's voice, firm but not angry. "Now." "Ma'am, should we call security?" someone asked. I said everyone out. Footsteps retreated, doors closed, and then, incredibly, I felt something warm being draped over my shoulders. The scent of expensive perfume, mixed with something softer, more personal. When I finally opened my eyes 20 minutes later, I was alone in the conference room except for Alex Monroe, who was sitting across from me, working quietly on her laptop. She'd given me her blazer, a piece of clothing that probably cost more than I made in a month. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, starting to remove the blazer. "I should go." "When's the last time you slept?" she asked, not looking up from her screen. What? "Sleep. When did you last get a full night's rest?" I couldn't remember. I work nights. And my brother, he's only 16, and our mom, I stopped. Why was I telling her this? Alex finally looked at me, and for the first time, her expression wasn't cold or professional. There was something almost gentle in her eyes. "Your portfolio," she said, gesturing to my scattered papers, the handwritten notes, the sketches. "You did all this yourself?" I nodded, embarrassed by how amateur it must look compared to the polished presentations she was used to. "It's brilliant," she said simply. I stared at her. "What?" "The user interface concepts, the accessibility features you've designed for low-income users. It's exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need." She closed her laptop and leaned forward. "Emily, I'm going to make you an offer that's going to surprise a lot of people in this building." My heart was pounding. An offer? Junior developer position with direct mentorship from me. Starting salary is $65,000 with full benefits and housing assistance if you need it. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. This wasn't happening. "But I fell asleep in your interview," I managed to say. Alex smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her. "You fell asleep because you're exhausted from working multiple jobs to support your family, while teaching yourself skills that most people need 4 years of college to learn. That's not weakness, Emily. That's strength." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. "I built this company because I believe in finding extraordinary people in ordinary circumstances. You just showed me more authenticity in 30 minutes than most candidates show me in hours of rehearsed answers. I don't understand," I said, still clutching her blazer. "You will," she said, turning back to me. "Can you start Monday?" As I walked out of Monroe Dynamics that day, wearing a CEO's blazer and carrying a job offer that would change my life, I had no idea that this was just the beginning. I didn't know that Alex Monroe was about to become more than my boss. I didn't know that our story would challenge everything both of us believed about love, power, and what it means to be truly seen. All I knew was that for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of tomorrow. But sometimes, the most beautiful beginnings hide the most complicated endings. If you think starting a new job is nerve-wracking, try starting one where your boss is the woman who caught you sleeping in an interview and somehow decided you were worth $65,000 a year. Trust me, the first day at Monroe Dynamics was about to teach me that corporate kindness comes with complications I never saw coming. Monday morning arrived faster than I was ready for. I'd spent the weekend shopping at Target for professional clothes with money I didn't have, trying to look like I belonged in a building where the coffee machine probably cost more than my rent. Jake had helped me practice my introduction in the mirror, making me promise to text him every hour so he'd know I wasn't dreaming. The Monroe Dynamics lobby was even more intimidating in daylight. Marble floors, abstract art that probably cost 6 figures, and a reception desk that looked like it belonged on a spaceship. I gave my name to the receptionist, a perfectly polished woman who looked me up and down with barely concealed curiosity. "Ms. Stor," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Ms. Monroe is expecting you, 32nd floor." The elevator ride felt endless. When the doors opened, I stepped into what could only be described as a tech paradise. Open workspace with standing desks, employees in designer casual wear, and windows that offered a view of the entire Bay Area. This was where innovation happened, where the future was built. "Emily!" a voice called out. I turned to see a woman in her 30s approaching with a warm smile. "I'm Sarah Chen, head of development. Alex asked me to show you around." Sarah was everything I hoped to become. Confident, successful, wearing the kind of clothes that said she belonged here. As she led me through the office, introducing me to team members whose names I immediately forgot, I tried to absorb everything. "So you're the girl who fell asleep in Alex's interview," said Marcus, a developer with kind eyes and an expensive watch. "That's legendary. No one's ever done that and lived to tell about it." "She didn't just live," Sarah laughed. "She got hired with direct CEO mentorship. That's never happened before." The weight of their words settled on my shoulders. I wasn't just the new junior developer. I was the anomaly, the girl who'd somehow broken the rules and won. "Don't let it get to you," Sarah said quietly as we walked toward my desk. "Alex sees something in you. That's rare." My workspace was a corner desk with a brand new MacBook Pro and 2 monitors that probably cost more than my car. A small succulent sat next to the keyboard with a note, "Welcome to the team. AM." She doesn't usually do personal touches, Sarah observed, reading over my shoulder. Before I could respond, a familiar voice made me turn around. How's your first morning going? Alex Monroe stood behind me, and in the natural light streaming through the windows, she was even more striking than I remembered. Today she wore a navy blazer over dark jeans, still professional, but somehow more approachable than the power suit from the interview. It's incredible, I said, gesturing to my setup. Thank you for all of this. You haven't seen anything yet, she said with that same small smile from Friday. Sarah, mind if I steal Emily for a few minutes? Sarah nodded and disappeared, leaving me alone with the CEO of a billion-dollar company. Alex gestured for me to follow her, and we walked toward a glass-walled office that overlooked the entire floor. This is where you'll be working with me, she said, opening the door to reveal a smaller conference room with a whiteboard covered in diagrams and code snippets. I know it's unconventional, but I believe in hands-on mentorship. I stared at the whiteboard, recognizing some of the algorithms from my own projects. You've been working on accessibility features? For the past 6 months, she said, settling into one of the chairs. Your portfolio gave me some ideas I hadn't considered. For the next hour, Alex walked me through Monroe Dynamics' current projects, explaining the technical challenges they were facing and asking for my input. It was surreal. Here was one of the most powerful women in tech, genuinely interested in my opinions. The user interface for low-income demographics, she said, pointing to a section of code on her laptop. Your sketches showed an understanding of barriers I hadn't considered. How did you know? Because I lived it, I said without thinking. When you're choosing between paying for internet and buying groceries, every extra click matters. Every confusing menu is a barrier. Alex was quiet for a moment, studying my face. Tell me about your background, the real story, not the interview version. So I did. I told her about growing up in Fresno, about my mom leaving when Jake was 10, about working 3 jobs to keep us afloat while teaching myself to code on library computers. I told her about the nights I'd fallen asleep over programming tutorials, about the rejection letters from colleges I couldn't afford anyway. And you never gave up, she said when I finished. I couldn't. Jake needed me to succeed. What about what you needed? The question caught me off guard. I needed to take care of my family. That's not what I asked. Alex leaned forward, her gray eyes intense. What did Emily need? What did you want for yourself? No one had ever asked me that before. I wanted to build something that mattered, something that could help people like me, and now you can. The way she said it, with such certainty, made something flutter in my chest. This wasn't just a job offer. This was someone believing in me in a way I'd never experienced. Alex, I said, then caught myself. I mean, Ms. Monroe. Alex is fine when it's just us, she said. We're going to be working closely together. Why me? Really, you could have hired anyone. Alex was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the city beyond the windows. Because you reminded me of something I'd forgotten. What's that? What it feels like to be real. Before I could ask what she meant, her assistant knocked on the glass door. Ms. Monroe, the board meeting starts in 5 minutes. The spell was broken. Alex straightened, and I watched her transform back into the polished CEO I'd met in the interview. But for just a moment, I'd seen something else, something vulnerable. We'll continue this tomorrow, she said, standing. Emily, take the rest of the day to get settled. Sarah will help you with anything you need. As she walked away, I realized I was holding my breath. There was something happening here. Something beyond a normal mentor-student relationship. The way she'd looked at me, the personal questions, the genuine interest in my story. It felt like more than professional curiosity. But that was impossible. She was Alexandra Monroe, CEO and founder of a billion-dollar company. I was Emily Stor, a girl from Fresno who'd fallen asleep in an interview. Still, as I sat in that glass-walled office, looking out at a view I'd never imagined I'd see, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life had just taken a turn I wasn't prepared for. And honestly, I wasn't sure if that scared me or thrilled me more. You know what they don't tell you about working for a tech company? The real work happens after everyone else goes home, and when your mentor is the CEO who seems to live at the office. Those after-hours sessions become something you never expected. What happened between Alex and me during those late nights was about to cross every professional line I thought existed. 3 weeks into my new job, I'd fallen into a routine. Days were spent learning the company's systems, attending meetings where I mostly listened, and trying not to feel like an imposter among my brilliant colleagues. But the evenings were different. "Emily, do you have a few minutes?" Alex appeared at my desk around 7 p.m., just as I was packing up. The office had mostly emptied, leaving just the dedicated few who lived and breathed code. "Of course," I said, grabbing my notebook. These impromptu sessions had become the highlight of my days. We walked to her private office, not the conference room we usually used, but her actual workspace. I'd never been inside before. The space was surprisingly personal. Photos of what looked like family, a few art pieces that seemed chosen for meaning rather than status, and books that showed actual wear from being read. "I wanted to show you something," she said, settling behind her desk and gesturing for me to take the chair across from her. "The accessibility project we've been working on. I presented it to the board today." She turned her laptop screen toward me, and I saw a polished presentation featuring many of the ideas we'd discussed. My ideas, refined and elevated, but still recognizably mine. "They approved full development funding," she said, watching my reaction. $2 million to start. I stared at the screen, unable to process what I was seeing. "My ideas helped secure $2 million? Your ideas are the foundation of what could be our most important project," Alex corrected. "Emily, you're not just a junior developer anymore. I want you to lead this initiative." "Lead it?" My voice came out as a squeak. "I've been here 3 weeks, and in 3 weeks you've shown more insight into user experience than some people develop in years." Alex closed the laptop and leaned back in her chair. "I know it's fast, but I believe in taking risks on the right people." The way she said, "the right people," made my heart skip. There was something in her tone, something that felt personal rather than professional. "I don't know what to say," I admitted. "Say you'll stay late and help me plan the project timeline," she said with a smile. "I ordered dinner. Hope you like Thai food." An hour later, we were sitting on the floor of her office. Takeout containers spread between us, laptops open. Sketching out project phases on a whiteboard Alex had wheeled in from the conference room. Somewhere between the pad thai and the technical specifications, the conversation had shifted from work to life. "So Jake wants to study computer science too?" Alex asked, twirling noodles around her chopsticks. "He's brilliant," I said, probably with too much pride in my voice. "Smarter than me, honestly. He just needs the opportunity. Like you did. Like I did." I looked at her, sitting cross-legged on the expensive carpet in her designer clothes, eating takeout like a college student. "Can I ask you something? Anything. Why are you really doing this? The mentorship, the project? All of it. I know it's not just about my ideas." Alex was quiet for a long moment, staring at her food. When she looked up, her expression was more open than I'd ever seen it. "Because you're the first person I've met in years who doesn't want anything from me except the chance to do good work," she said. "Do you know how rare that is? I find that hard to believe. Everyone wants something, Emily. Investors want returns, employees want promotions, the media wants scandals, even my friends." She stopped herself. "Let's just say it's been a long time since someone looked at me and saw just me." The vulnerability in her voice made my chest tight. "I see you," I said quietly. "I know you do." She met my eyes. "That's the problem." "Problem?" Alex stood up abruptly, walking to the window that overlooked the city lights. "Emily, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully." My heart started pounding. "Okay." "I'm attracted to you." The words hung in the air between us. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. "I know it's inappropriate," she continued, not turning around. "I know there are power dynamics and company policies and 100 reasons why I shouldn't be saying this, but I can't keep pretending that what's happening between us is purely professional." I stood up slowly, my legs unsteady. "Alex, I'm not asking you for anything," she said quickly. "I just needed you to know, because I can't keep mentoring you while hiding this. And I can't stop mentoring you because you're too important to this company, so I'm stuck." I walked over to where she stood by the window. The city stretched out below us, millions of lights representing millions of lives, millions of stories. But right now, The only story that mattered was happening in this room. "You're not stuck," I said. She turned to look at me, and I saw something in her eyes that took my breath away. Hope, fear, and desire, all mixed together. "Emily, you don't understand what you're saying. I'm your boss. I'm 15 years older than you. I could ruin your career with a word." "You could?" I agreed, stepping closer. "But you won't." "How can you be so sure? Because you gave me your blazer when I fell asleep in your interview. Because you see my potential when I can barely see it myself. Because you're standing here telling me the truth, instead of just using your power to get what you want." We were standing close enough now that I could smell her perfume, could see the flecks of blue in her gray eyes. "This is crazy," she whispered. "Maybe," I said. "But I'm attracted to you, too." The admission hung between us like a bridge neither of us was sure we should cross. Alex reached up and touched my cheek, her fingers soft against my skin. "We can't," she said. But she didn't move away. "I know. It would be a scandal. It could destroy everything I've built. I know. You could lose your job, your future. I know." I covered her hand with mine. "But Alex, what if we could? What if there was a way?" Before she could answer, her phone buzzed with a text. The spell was broken. She stepped back, checking the message, and I watched her transform back into CEO mode. "I have to go," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Early meeting tomorrow." I nodded, understanding that the moment had passed. But as I gathered my things and headed for the elevator, I could feel her watching me, and I knew that everything had changed. In the elevator, I caught my reflection in the mirrored walls. I looked different somehow, like I was carrying a secret that was both thrilling and terrifying, because I was falling for Alexandra Monroe, and she was falling for me too. And in the corporate world of Silicon Valley, that was either the beginning of the most beautiful love story or the most spectacular disaster. I was about to find out which one. Sometimes the universe has a twisted sense of timing. Just when you think you found something beautiful, something worth fighting for, reality crashes in with all the subtlety of a wrecking ball. What happened next didn't just threaten my job. It threatened to destroy everything Alex had spent her life building. And it was all because someone saw us together. The morning started like any other. I arrived at Monroe Dynamics with coffee, and the kind of nervous excitement that had become my normal state since Alex's confession 3 days earlier. We'd been careful, professional during the day, but stealing moments in the evening when the office emptied out. Nothing had happened beyond that almost kiss in her office, but the tension between us was electric. I was reviewing code when Sarah appeared at my desk, her usually warm expression replaced by something that looked like concern mixed with curiosity. "Emily, can we talk?" she said, glancing around the office. "Privately?" We walked to an empty conference room, and Sarah closed the door behind us. My stomach dropped. This felt serious. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me," she said, sitting across from me. "Are you and Alex involved?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "What? Why would you ask that?" "Because Marcus saw you two in her office last night. He was working late, came up to get something from the printer, and saw you standing very close together by the window." My mouth went dry. "We were just talking about the project." Sarah's expression softened. "Emily, I like you. I think you're brilliant, and I think Alex sees something special in you. But if something is happening between you two, you need to know that it's dangerous. For both of you." "Nothing is happening," I said, but the lie felt heavy on my tongue. "Okay," Sarah said, but I could tell she didn't believe me. "Just be careful. Alex has enemies on the board who would love an excuse to question her judgment. And you're too talented to let a scandal derail your career before it starts." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of anxiety. Every glance from a colleague felt loaded with suspicion. Every conversation seemed to stop when I walked by. By lunch, I was convinced that everyone in the office knew something was happening between Alex and me. I was picking at a salad in the company cafeteria when my phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Need to see you. My office. Now." The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like ascending to my execution. Alex's assistant waved me through without her usual smile, and I found Alex standing behind her desk, staring at her computer screen with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure fury. "Close the door," she said without looking up. I did, my hand shaking slightly. "Alex, what's wrong?" She turned her laptop screen toward me, and I saw a blog post that made my blood freeze. Monroe Dynamics CEO's inappropriate relationship with young employee. The article was on Tech Gossip, a notorious industry blog known for destroying careers with half-truths and speculation. There was a photo, grainy, clearly taken from outside the building, showing Alex and me standing close together in her office window. The angle made it look more intimate than it had been, but it was unmistakably us. "How did they get this?" I whispered. "Someone tipped them off," Alex said, her voice deadly calm. "Someone who knew exactly when and where to look." I read the article with growing horror. It painted me as a gold digger who'd seduced my way into a job, and Alex as a predatory boss taking advantage of a vulnerable employee. Every detail was twisted to create the worst possible narrative. "Alex, I'm so sorry." "Don't," she said sharply. "Don't apologize for something that isn't your fault. But it is my fault. I should have been more careful. I should have—" "You should have what? Hidden who you are? Pretended not to feel what we both feel?" Alex walked around her desk and took my hands. "Emily, listen to me. This is not your fault. The board is going to see this," I said, panic rising in my chest. "Your investors, your employees. I know. They'll fire me. They'll make you fire me. They'll try." The certainty in her voice made me look up at her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm not going to let them destroy you because of my feelings." Alex's gray eyes were fierce. "I've been thinking about this since Sarah called me an hour ago to warn me the article was coming. I have a plan." "What kind of plan?" "I'm going to call an emergency board meeting. I'm going to tell them the truth. That yes, I have feelings for you, but that nothing inappropriate has happened. I'm going to show them your work, your contributions to the company, and make it clear that your value here has nothing to do with our personal connection. And if they don't believe you, then I'll resign." The words hit me like a slap. "What?" "No, Alex, you can't. I built this company, Emily, but I won't let it become a place where talented people are destroyed by gossip and prejudice." She cupped my face in her hands. "You are the most brilliant, authentic person I've ever met. I won't let them take that away from you. You can't sacrifice everything you've built for me." "I'm not sacrificing it. I'm fighting for what it should be." Before I could respond, there was a sharp knock on the door. Alex's assistant entered without waiting for permission, her face pale. "Ms. Monroe, the board is here. Emergency meeting in conference room A." Alex straightened, and I watched her transform into the CEO who'd built $1 billion company from nothing. "Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes." When we were alone again, Alex turned back to me. "Emily, I need you to know something. Whatever happens in that meeting, whatever they decide, my feelings for you are real. This isn't just attraction or some midlife crisis. You've changed me. You've changed me too," I whispered. "Good." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Now, I need you to go back to your desk and keep working. Don't talk to reporters if they call. Don't respond to the article. Just be the brilliant developer I hired. What if they fire me? They won't. I won't let them." As I walked back to my desk, I felt like I was moving through a dream. The office buzzed with whispered conversations that stopped when people saw me. My computer was flooded with messages from reporters and strangers who'd somehow gotten my email address. An hour later, Sarah appeared at my desk again. "Emily, Alex wants to see you." The walk back to the executive floor felt endless. When I entered the conference room, I found Alex sitting at the head of the table, surrounded by stern-faced board members I recognized from company photos. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. "Emily," Alex said, her voice professionally neutral. "Please sit down." I took the empty chair next to her, acutely aware of every eye in the room studying my face. "The board has some questions," Alex continued. "I've told them that you're here voluntarily and that you're free to answer or not answer anything they ask." An older man with silver hair and cold eyes leaned forward. "Ms. Stor, are you romantically involved with Ms. Monroe?" The question hung in the air. I looked at Alex, who gave me the slightest nod. "No," I said clearly. "I am not romantically involved with Ms. Monroe." It was technically true. We hadn't crossed that line yet, but you have feelings for her, another board member said. It wasn't a question. I took a deep breath. I have tremendous respect and admiration for Ms. Monroe, both as a leader and as a person. That's not what I asked. Alex leaned forward. With respect, David, Ms. Stor's personal feelings are not the issue here. The issue is whether she's qualified for her position and whether she's contributing value to this company. And on both counts, the answer is unequivocally yes. For the next hour, I answered questions about my work, my qualifications, and my contributions to the accessibility project. Slowly, I watched some of the board members' expressions soften as they realized I wasn't the gold-digging opportunist the article had painted me as. Finally, the silver-haired man, David, spoke again. "Ms. Stor, you may go. We need to discuss this matter privately with Ms. Monroe." I stood to leave, but Alex's voice stopped me. "Emily." I turned back. "Thank you," she said. And in those 2 words, I heard everything she couldn't say in front of the board. As I walked out of that conference room, I realized that whatever happened next, we'd already won something important. We'd told the truth. We'd fought for what we believed in, and sometimes, that's all you can do. You know that moment when everything you've worked for hangs by a thread, and the only person who can save it is the same person you're falling in love with? Well, that's exactly where I found myself after the board meeting from hell. But what Alex did next didn't just surprise the board. It changed the entire trajectory of both our lives in ways I never saw coming. The hours after the board meeting felt like waiting for a verdict in a trial where I didn't know what crime I was accused of. I sat at my desk, pretending to work while my mind raced through every possible outcome. Around me, the office hummed with whispered conversations and sideways glances. The tech gossip article had gone viral, and suddenly, Monroe Dynamics was trending on social media for all the wrong reasons. Sarah stopped by my desk around 4 p.m., her expression carefully neutral. "Emily, can you come with me?" My heart sank. This was it. They were going to escort me out of the building with a box of my belongings and a non-disclosure agreement, but instead of heading toward HR, Sarah led me to the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. The executive level I'd only been to a handful of times. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Alex wants to see you," Sarah said. "In the boardroom." The elevator seemed to move in slow motion. When the doors opened, I followed Sarah down a hallway I'd never seen before, past offices with names I recognized from the company directory. At the end of the hall was a set of double doors marked Executive Conference Room. Sarah knocked and opened the door without waiting for a response. "She's here." The room was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of San Francisco Bay. A long mahogany table dominated the space, surrounded by leather chairs that probably cost more than my monthly rent. But what caught my attention was Alex, standing at the far end of the room with her back to the door, looking out at the city. "Thank you, Sarah," Alex said without turning around. "Close the door behind you." When we were alone, Alex finally turned to face me. She looked exhausted, like she'd aged years in the few hours since I'd left the board meeting. But there was something else in her expression, something that looked almost like relief. "Sit down," she said, gesturing to one of the chairs. I sat, my hands folded in my lap to keep them from shaking. "Alex, what happened? What did the board decide?" She walked over and sat in the chair next to mine, close enough that I could see the flecks of blue in her gray eyes. "They gave me an ultimatum." My stomach dropped. "What kind of ultimatum? Fire you immediately and issue a public statement distancing the company from any inappropriate relationship, or they'll call for a vote of no confidence in my leadership." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "So you're firing me?" "No," Alex said firmly. "I'm not. But if you don't, Emily, listen to me." She reached over and took my hands. "I called their bluff." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I told them that if they want to remove me as CEO over this, they're welcome to try. But they'll have to explain to the shareholders why they're destroying the company's reputation and losing their most successful leader because of a relationship that hasn't even violated any company policies." I stared at her. You risked everything for me. I risked everything for what's right, Alex corrected. Emily, you are the most talented developer this company has seen in years. Your accessibility project alone could revolutionize how we think about inclusive technology. I'm not going to let a bunch of old men in expensive suits destroy that because they're uncomfortable with the idea that I might have feelings for you. What did they say? Alex smiled, and for the first time all day, it reached her eyes. They backed down. Turns out, when you actually look at the numbers, your performance metrics, your contributions to the team, the potential value of your projects, it's pretty hard to argue that you don't belong here. Relief flooded through me so intensely that I felt dizzy. So I can stay? You can stay. In fact, they approved your promotion to senior developer and project lead for the accessibility initiative. I couldn't speak, couldn't process what she was telling me. But, Alex continued, her expression growing serious, there are conditions. Of course there were. What kind of conditions? We have to be completely professional during work hours. No personal conversations, no private meetings unless they're directly related to business. No physical contact of any kind. I nodded. That seemed reasonable. And, Alex continued, we can't be seen together outside of work. No dinners, no coffee meetings, nothing that could be construed as personal. My heart sank. So we can work together, but we can't. We can't explore whatever this is between us, Alex finished. Not while you're my employee. The weight of what she was saying settled over me. We could save my career and her company, but only by sacrificing any chance of a personal relationship. There's something else, Alex said quietly. I've been thinking about this all day, and I've made a decision. What decision? I'm stepping down as CEO. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Alex, no, you can't. I can, and I am. She stood up and walked back to the window. I've been running this company for 15 years, Emily. I built it from nothing, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished. But I'm tired of living my life according to other people's expectations. You're giving up everything you've worked for. I'm not giving up anything. I'm choosing something better. She turned back to me. The board has agreed to promote Sarah to CEO. She's brilliant, she's respected, and she'll take Monroe Dynamics to places I never could. I'll stay on as chairman of the board, but I won't be involved in day-to-day operations. And what will you do? I'm going to start something new, something smaller, more focused on the kind of work that actually matters. Alex's eyes were bright with possibility, and I'm hoping you'll come with me. My heart stopped. Come with you? Emily, I want to build something with you. Not just a company, but a partnership. A real partnership, where we can work together and be together without worrying about board meetings and corporate policies and what the tech blogs are saying about us. I stood up slowly, my legs unsteady. You're asking me to leave Monroe Dynamics? I'm asking you to take a leap of faith with me. Alex, I just got promoted. I just proved that I belong here. And you want me to walk away from all of that? I want you to walk toward something better. I walked over to where she stood by the window. The sun was setting over the bay, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Below us, the city buzzed with millions of people living their lives, making their choices, taking their chances. What if it doesn't work? I asked. What if we fail? Then we fail together, Alex said simply. But Emily, what if we succeed? What if we build something amazing? What if we prove that love and business can coexist, that authenticity and success aren't mutually exclusive? I thought about Jake, about the life I'd been trying to build, about all the reasons this was crazy. But then I looked at Alex, really looked at her, and saw something I'd never seen before. Hope. Pure, unguarded hope. When would we start? I heard myself ask. Tomorrow, if you want. I've already talked to some investors who are interested in funding a new venture focused on accessible technology. Your accessibility project would be our flagship product. And us? What would we be? Alex stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her body. We'd be partners. In every sense of the word. Alex? I know it's crazy, she said. I know it's risky and complicated. and probably the most impulsive thing I've ever done. But Emily, I've spent my entire adult life playing it safe, following the rules, being who other people expected me to be. And then you fell asleep in my interview and reminded me what it feels like to be real. She reached up and touched my cheek, the same gesture she'd made in her office 3 days ago. But this time, she didn't pull away. "I'm falling in love with you," she whispered, "and I want to see where that takes us." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. "I'm falling in love with you too. So what do you say? Will you take a leap of faith with me?" I thought about everything that had brought me to this moment. The exhaustion that had made me fall asleep in an interview. The kindness of a CEO who'd seen potential where others saw failure. The courage it had taken to be honest about our feelings. The choice between safety and possibility. "Yes," I said. "Yes, I'll take a leap of faith with you." Alex smiled, and this time it was radiant, transforming her entire face. "Really?" "Really." And then she kissed me. Right there in the executive conference room of Monroe Dynamics, with the San Francisco skyline as our witness, Alexandra Monroe kissed me like I was the answer to every question she'd ever asked. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless and dizzy and more certain than I'd ever been about anything in my life. "So," I said, grinning up at her, "what do we do now?" "Now," Alex said, taking my hand, "we go change the world." 6 months later, I'm sitting in our new office space in Oakland, watching Alex present our accessibility platform to a room full of potential clients, and I still can't quite believe this is my life. But let me tell you how we got here, because the journey from that kiss in the Monroe Dynamics boardroom to building our own company together has been anything but smooth. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories are also the most complicated ones. The first month after leaving Monroe Dynamics was terrifying. We'd rented a small office space in Oakland, partly because it was cheaper than San Francisco, but mostly because we wanted to be closer to the communities we were trying to serve. Our team consisted of Alex, me, 2 developers Alex had convinced to leave Monroe Dynamics, and a part-time marketing consultant who worked for Coffee and Equity. "Are you sure about this?" I asked Alex one evening as we sat on the floor of our empty office, eating takeout Chinese food and trying to figure out how to afford proper furniture. "Having second thoughts?" she asked, looking up from her laptop where she was reviewing our business plan for the 100th time. "Not about the business," I said. "About us. About mixing business and personal. Everyone says it's a recipe for disaster." Alex set down her laptop and moved closer to me on the floor. "Emily, do you remember what you said to me that night in my office? When I told you all the reasons we couldn't be together? I said you were right, but that didn't change how I felt. You said I wouldn't ruin your career because you knew who I was." Alex took my hands. "I know who you are too. You're brilliant, you're driven, and you're not the kind of person who would let a relationship compromise your work. If anything, working together makes us both better." She was right. But that didn't make it easier. Learning to navigate the transition from boss-employee to equal partners was like learning a new language. We had to establish boundaries, figure out how to disagree professionally without it affecting our personal relationship, and deal with the inevitable moments when one of us wanted to make a decision based on protecting the other rather than what was best for the business. The breakthrough came during our 3rd month, when we landed our first major client, a nonprofit organization that provided services to low-income families. They needed a platform that could work on older devices with limited internet connectivity, exactly the kind of challenge that had inspired my original accessibility project. "This is it," Alex said after we'd signed the contract. "This is what we're meant to be doing." She was right. Working on that project felt different from anything I'd done at Monroe Dynamics. Every line of code, every design decision, every user interface element was driven by a clear purpose: making technology accessible to people who had been left behind by the digital revolution. But it wasn't just the work that felt different. It was working with Alex as an equal partner. At Monroe Dynamics, despite her mentorship and support, there had always been an inherent power imbalance. She was the CEO. I was the junior developer. Here, we were building something together from the ground up. "You know what I love about this?" Alex said one evening as we were testing the platform with a focus group of potential users. "What?" "Watching you present to clients. You're completely in your element. You're not the nervous girl who fell asleep in my interview anymore." She was right. Somewhere along the way, I'd found my confidence. Maybe it was the work itself, or maybe it was having a partner who believed in me unconditionally. But I felt like I was finally becoming the person I was meant to be. The personal side of our relationship evolved more slowly. We were both cautious, both aware of how much we had at stake. Our first real date didn't happen until 2 months after we'd started the company. And even then, it was just dinner at a quiet restaurant in Berkeley, where we were unlikely to run into anyone from the tech world. "This is weird," I said, looking across the table at Alex in the candlelight. "Good weird or bad weird? Good weird. It's just, we've been working together every day, building a life together. But this is the first time we've just been Alex and Emily on a date. Sugku. What do you think?" Alex asked, reaching across the table to take my hand. "Do you like Alex and Emily on a date?" "I love Alex and Emily on a date," I said, and meant it. The physical side of our relationship developed naturally from there. Our first night together happened 3 weeks later, after we'd celebrated landing our second major client. Alex had opened a bottle of champagne in the office, and we'd ended up talking until midnight about our dreams for the company, our hopes for the future, and how surreal it was that we'd found each other. "Emily," Alex said as we were cleaning up the empty champagne glasses, "can I ask you something? Anything. Do you ever regret it? Leaving Monroe Dynamics? Taking this risk with me?" I set down the glass I was holding and walked over to where she stood by the window overlooking the Oakland skyline. "Alex, 6 months ago, I was a broke girl from Fresno working 3 jobs and sleeping 4 hours a night. Now I'm building technology that could help millions of people, working with the woman I love, and for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of tomorrow. So that's a no. That's a hell no." I wrapped my arms around her waist. "Do you regret it?" "Never," she said, leaning down to kiss me. "Best decision I ever made." That night, we made love for the first time in the apartment Alex had bought in Oakland. A converted warehouse with exposed brick walls and huge windows that let in the morning light. It was nothing like the sterile perfection of her San Francisco penthouse. It was warm and real and ours. "I love you," Alex whispered afterward, as we lay tangled in her sheets, my head on her chest. "I love you too," I said, and felt the truth of it settle into my bones. The next morning, we woke up to an email that changed everything. TechCrunch wanted to do a feature story on our company, not because of the scandal that had driven us out of Monroe Dynamics, but because of the work we were doing. Former Monroe Dynamics CEO and protege launch revolutionary accessibility platform. Alex read from her laptop as we drank coffee in bed. "Alex Monroe and Emily Stor are proving that the most innovative technology comes from understanding real human needs. They want to interview us," I said, reading over her shoulder. "Together. Are you ready for that? For people to know about us?" I thought about it. 6 months ago, the idea of being in the public eye would have terrified me. But now, sitting in bed with the woman I loved, looking at an opportunity to share our story and our work with the world, I felt nothing but excitement. "I'm ready," I said. "Are you?" "I've been ready since the day you fell asleep in my interview," Alex said, pulling me closer. I just needed to find the courage to admit it. The TechCrunch article came out 2 weeks later, and it was everything we'd hoped for. They focused on our technology, our mission, and our partnership, both professional and personal. The response was overwhelmingly positive. We got inquiries from potential clients, investors, and other entrepreneurs who wanted to know how we'd made the transition from corporate life to startup success. But the best response came from Jake, who called me the day the article was published. "I just read the TechCrunch piece," he said, and I could hear the pride in his voice. "You did it." "You actually did it. We did it," I corrected, looking across our office at Alex, who was on a call with a potential investor. "And Jake, there's something else. Alex and I want to offer you an internship this summer. Paid, of course, if you're interested in learning about accessible technology development." The silence on the other end of the line lasted so long, I thought we'd been disconnected. "Jake, are you there?" "I'm here," he said, and his voice was thick with emotion. Em, are you serious? Dead serious. Alex says you're brilliant, and I trust her judgment. This is incredible. Em, thank you. For everything. For never giving up. For taking care of me. For showing me what's possible. After I hung up, Alex came over and wrapped her arms around me from behind. Good call? She asked. The best, I said, leaning back against her. Alex, can I tell you something? Always. A year ago, if someone had told me that I'd be running a tech company with the woman I love, that I'd be featured in TechCrunch, that I'd be able to give my brother opportunities I never dreamed of, I would have thought they were crazy. And now? Now I think maybe the craziest dreams are the ones worth fighting for. Alex spun me around in her arms, and I saw my own joy reflected in her eyes. Emily Stor, you are the best thing that ever happened to me. Even better than building $1 billion company? Especially better than that, she said, and kissed me in the middle of our office, surrounded by the computers and whiteboards and dreams we were building together. 6 months ago, I fell asleep in an interview and woke up to find my life completely changed. Today, I'm wide awake and living a life I never dared to imagine, and this is just the beginning. 1 year later, I'm standing in the same Monroe Dynamics conference room where I once fell asleep during an interview, but this time I'm here as the CEO of my own company. Alex is beside me, not as my boss or mentor, but as my equal partner in business and in life. What we're about to propose to Monroe Dynamics will either validate everything we've built together or prove that some bridges can never be rebuilt. But sometimes, coming full circle means facing the past to secure the future. Are you nervous? Alex whispered as we waited outside the conference room where it all began. Terrified, I admitted, adjusting my blazer, a designer piece Alex had insisted on buying me for this meeting. It's weird being back here. Good weird or bad weird? I smiled at the question that had become our private joke. Jury still out. The door opened, and Sarah Chen appeared, now wearing the confident smile of someone who'd successfully stepped into the CEO role. Emily, Alex, thank you for coming. The board is ready for you. Walking into that conference room felt like stepping through a portal to my past. The same massive table, the same intimidating windows overlooking the bay, even some of the same board members who'd questioned my qualifications a year ago. But everything else had changed. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah said, taking her seat at the head of the table, I'd like to welcome Alex Monroe and Emily Stor from Accessible Dynamics to present their partnership proposal. Alex squeezed my hand under the table, a gesture of support that no one could see, but that gave me the confidence I needed. We'd rehearsed this presentation dozens of times, but standing in front of the Monroe Dynamics board felt different from pitching to any other potential partner. Thank you for having us, Alex began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd once run this very company. A year ago, Emily and I left Monroe Dynamics under difficult circumstances. Today, we're here to propose a partnership that could benefit both our companies and, more importantly, the millions of people who need accessible technology. I stood up and activated our presentation on the large screen. The first slide showed our company's growth over the past year: 15 employees, 12 major clients, and technology that was being used by over 100,000 people with disabilities. When I fell asleep in this room during my interview, I began, and I heard a few chuckles from board members who remembered. I was exhausted from working multiple jobs just to survive. Today, our platform helps people in similar situations access services, education, and opportunities that were previously out of reach. For the next 30 minutes, we walk through our proposal. Monroe Dynamics would integrate our accessibility platform into their existing products, expanding their market reach while ensuring their technology was usable by people with disabilities. In return, we'd gain access to Monroe Dynamics' resources and distribution network, allowing us to scale our impact exponentially. The numbers speak for themselves, Alex said, clicking to a slide showing projected revenue and user growth. This partnership would increase Monroe Dynamics' addressable market by 15%, while positioning the company as a leader in inclusive technology. David, the silver-haired board member who'd been most hostile during my interrogation a year ago, leaned forward. This is impressive work, he said, and I tried not to look surprised. But I have to ask, how do we know this partnership won't be complicated by your personal relationship? It was the question we'd been expecting, but it still made my stomach tighten. Alex and I had discussed how to handle it, and we'd decided on complete transparency. David, that's a fair question, Alex replied. Emily and I are partners in every sense of the word. We're building a life together as well as a business. But our track record over the past year shows that our personal relationship enhances our professional collaboration, rather than compromising it. Our company has clear policies about decision-making, conflict resolution, and financial oversight, I added. We've learned to separate personal feelings from business decisions because we both care too much about our mission to let emotions derail our work. Another board member, a woman I didn't recognize, spoke up. Ms. Stor, can you walk us through your role in the company? How do you ensure that decisions are made objectively when you're both personally and professionally invested? We have a board of advisors that includes independent members, I explained. Any major decision requires their input. We also have clearly defined roles. I focus on product development and user experience, while Alex handles business development and strategic partnerships. When we disagree, we have processes in place to resolve conflicts professionally. And personally? David asked with a slight smile. How do you resolve conflicts at home? Alex laughed. The same way any couple does. We talk, we compromise, and sometimes Emily wins because she's usually right. The room erupted in laughter, and I felt some of the tension ease. These were the same people who'd once seen me as a threat to Alex's reputation. Now they were laughing at our relationship jokes. Sarah leaned forward. I have to say, watching your company's growth over the past year has been impressive. The work you're doing aligns perfectly with Monroe Dynamics' values. And frankly, we should have been doing this kind of accessibility work years ago. You're doing it now, Alex said. That's what matters. For the next hour, we fielded questions about technical integration, timeline, and financial projections. The board members who'd once been skeptical were now engaged and enthusiastic. I watched Alex navigate their concerns with the skill of someone who'd spent 15 years in these rooms. But there was something different about her now. She was more relaxed, more authentic, less concerned with maintaining a perfect image. Finally, Sarah called for a brief recess so the board could discuss the proposal privately. Alex and I stepped out into the hallway, and I immediately slumped against the wall. How do you think it went? I asked. Better than I expected, Alex said. Did you see David's face when you explained the user interface modifications? He was actually taking notes. I can't believe we're really doing this. Partnering with Monroe Dynamics. Having second thoughts? No, I said quickly. It's just, a year ago, I was so intimidated by this place, by these people. Now I feel like we're equals. You are equals, Alex said, stepping closer. Emily, you've built something incredible. You've earned your place at that table. Before I could respond, Sarah appeared in the hallway. We're ready for you. Back in the conference room, the board members looked pleased but professional. Sarah stood at the head of the table, and I held my breath. After careful consideration, she began, the Monroe Dynamics Board of Directors would like to move forward with this partnership. We'll have our legal team work with yours to draft the formal agreement. Relief flooded through me so intensely that I felt dizzy. Alex reached over and squeezed my hand, and this time she didn't hide the gesture. There is one condition, David added, and my heart sank. We want Emily to join our advisory board. Your insights into accessible design and underserved markets would be valuable for all our products, not just this partnership. I stared at him. You want me on your advisory board? We want both of you, Sarah clarified. Alex, your experience building this company is irreplaceable, and Emily, your perspective on inclusive technology is exactly what we need to stay innovative. After the meeting ended and we'd shaken hands with everyone, Alex and I found ourselves alone in the elevator, descending from the executive floor where my journey had begun. I can't believe that just happened, I said. I can, Alex replied. Emily, do you realize what you've accomplished? A year ago, you were a junior developer hoping for a chance. Today, you're the CEO of a successful company being courted by one of the biggest tech firms in Silicon Valley. We accomplished it, I corrected. Together, she agreed, and leaned over to kiss me as the elevator reached the lobby. That evening, we celebrated at the same restaurant in Berkeley, where we'd had our first official date. But this time, we weren't hiding or being cautious. We were two successful entrepreneurs who'd built something beautiful together, both professionally and personally. "So," Alex said, raising her glass of wine, "what's next for us?" "World domination?" I suggested, making her laugh. I was thinking something a little smaller scale, like maybe moving in together officially. My heart skipped. We'd been spending most nights at each other's places, but we'd never made it official. "Are you asking me to move in with you?" "I'm asking if you want to find a place that's ours. Not mine, not yours, but ours." "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Definitely yes." "Good," Alex said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "Because I already put an offer in on a house in the hills. It has a home office space that would be perfect for when we want to work from home, and a view of the bay that I thought you'd love." "You bought us a house?" "I made an offer on us a house," she corrected. "Pending your approval, of course." I laughed, shaking my head in amazement. "Alex Monroe, you are full of surprises. Emily Stor, you are the best surprise of my life." As we walked back to Alex's car after dinner, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. From falling asleep in an interview to building a company together, from hiding our feelings to celebrating our partnership publicly, from being afraid of tomorrow to planning our future together. "Alex," I said as we stopped at a red light, "can I tell you something? Always. A year ago, when I fell asleep in your interview, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd blown my one chance at something better. And now I realize that falling asleep was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it led me to you." Alex reached over and took my hand. "Emily, falling asleep in that interview wasn't what led you to me. Your courage, your authenticity, your refusal to give up. That's what led you to me. The sleep was just the catalyst." "Either way," I said, squeezing her hand. "I'm grateful." "Me too," she said. "Me too." 6 months later, we were featured on the cover of Forbes as the power couple revolutionizing accessible technology. The article talked about our partnership with Monroe Dynamics, our company's continued growth, and our relationship as both business partners and life partners. But my favorite part of the article was the final paragraph. When asked about the secret to their success, both Monroe and Stor point to the same thing: authenticity. "We succeed because we're not trying to be anyone other than who we are," Stor explains. "And we're lucky enough to have found someone who loves us for exactly that." Today, as I sit in our home office overlooking San Francisco Bay, working on our latest project while Alex takes a call with investors in the next room, I think about that scared girl who fell asleep in an interview and changed her life forever. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with the most unexpected moments. Sometimes falling asleep is actually the moment you wake up to who you're meant to be. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is trust that the person who sees you at your most vulnerable is the person worth building a life with. Alex was right that day in the conference room. I didn't just find a job at Monroe Dynamics. I found my future, and it's more beautiful than I ever dared to dream.